to feel alive. I'm just trying to make you feel something.
Hello. Welcome back. It is your host, Sleep. Welcome back to the Sleepover Podcast. Let's just jump into things. So first off, I see a lot of comments, people asking me where's the best place to listen or how can they help and things like that. Honestly, listen to this at the place that's most convenient for you. If you do listen to it on YouTube, I think has become the biggest place for a podcast. If you listen to it on Spotify, that's also dope. I know when we first started, we hit number 2 on the music charts, and it would be dope to hit that again. But if everybody's listening to wherever they want to listen, that's really all that matters, is that the messaging is getting out. If you do listen on YouTube and you have Spotify, you can just go over there and hit the download button when you see it pop up on Spotify and like it or whatever. That'll help it at least spread to more people from what I've noticed. And if you are listening and watching and consuming everything on YouTube, please make sure you are subscribed. When I looked, it said, I think now it's like 60% of the people who listen regularly aren't subscribed. And I know a lot of people just don't even know that they're not subscribed, because if you listen a couple times, it keeps popping up in your algorithm. So make sure you're subscribed. Hit the little notification bell or whatever. And, it all helps. I'm at a point now where I would love to start doing video of this podcast and bringing on guests and having some really dope, meaningful conversations with guests that we, love and admire. And if I'm ever going to get RM on the podcast, let's get the numbers up so it makes sense when I ask when the album cycle comes around. But before we get started, I want to give a shout out to a couple of the patronies. Sorry. I want to give a shout out to all of the patronies, but I'm going to give a special shout out to Erica Yates, 1True7, Andrew Wang, Misha Stone, and Cardell. Thank you for supporting at the Legend tier. All of this really, really helps the channel, and it's giving me a whole new motivation ending 2025, going into 2026. You're going to see and hear a lot from me all year. I had a lot of music work second half of the year, and the first half of the year had a, rocky road, ups and downs, highs and lows, but, we balance it all. But we are back, and we are better than ever. So the current release format for the Sleepover Podcast is every Monday, no matter where you are in the world. By the time you get up and get going, you should have an episode delivered to you so you can start out your work week in the right way with me. Take me to work, put me in your pocket, take me to the gym. Let me know where we're going in the comments. But so you'll get a new audio podcast at the moment. And then on Wednesday nights for the patronies, there's a special call-in series. We'll call it the Sleepover Pillow Talk Edition. And you can call in and we can discuss whatever I talked about on today's podcast. For example, last week we had a great conversation talking about how BTS and ARMY defeated a lot of the tricks in the Western music business and created a system that is unique and unbreakable, and it's helped catapult them to success. And some of you called in and we had a great conversation, and it's just like, you guys are all really smart, and I love hearing from you. So that's the format. Monday, podcast releases. If you are a Patreon member, you have the ability to call in Wednesday. Sometimes it might be Thursday, but Wednesdays we'll have the call in and we'll talk, and then we'll discuss some of these topics live. The way it works is there will be a QR code for the patronies. You scan that QR code and you can use your phone headphones to talk. If you have a desk setup, podcast setup on your own, you can also scan it and talk. And it sounds really good. The quality is great. I don't know if I did the best job of engineering it on the last episode, but we're getting there. We're growing and growing. So it's great. I love to hear from you guys on these topics, especially on today's topic, because today we are getting into something that we all have been affected by at every level. Even me, someone being in the music business who often gets invited to shows and gets free tickets. I've still dealt with this, when there's somebody I might not know and I have to go try to find some tickets because I don't know the management or something like that. And I'm seeing all these fees and things like that, and it's crazy. And I really want to get into that today. So you guys know the story about the three little pigs, right? I mean, most of you guys should know. If you really young, I don't know if they still give you these classic fairy tales like we got when we were kids, but the story of the big bad wolf and the three little pigs was, one built their house out of straw, one built their house out of something else, something else fragile, and one built their house out of brick. And the big bad wolf came and blew each house down, but he couldn't get into the brick house. And that's kind of like how I view Live Nation. And I view artists as the three little pigs, respectfully, not calling artists pigs. I actually really like pigs, but that's neither here nor there. So this will probably be the episode that gets me in trouble. But if any of you guys have a spare bedroom, if I lose everything, just let me know. I'll come move in, bring my stuff. So yeah, let's get into a little bit of a fairy tale. So just imagine once upon a time, and by time I mean right now, in the enchanted forest of live entertainment, there's this creature. It's the big bad wolf. And this big bad wolf goes by Live Nation. And think of Ticketmasters how many of you guys got a doorbell camera, a Ring camera? If Live Nation is the big bad wolf, then Ticketmaster is the Ring camera that watches us suffer. And so today I want to tell you the story about just how this wolf became the most powerful animal in the forest, I guess. And if we're keeping up with the three little pigs analogy. So in this episode, we'll break down exactly why touring is so just broken, who's benefiting from it, and why fans, especially us, are about to play a huge role in what happens next year when BTS hits the road again. So say you have the first artist. I don't want to call them pigs, we'll just call them artists. But this artist, her whole setup is built out of straw, meaning they're independent. Someone like me that's doing everything by themselves. You're driving, you're printing out flyers, you're doing sound check, merch, all these different things like that. It's draining because you don't have the team and the resources. And then once you even get to a certain level, say you do get to the next level, which we'll say is artist number 2, pig number 2. Say that their tour is built out of sticks or their career is built out of sticks. They sign a mid-level deal and then they want to go tour independently. But what they end up finding out is that Live Nation owns all of the venues. And so Live Nation comes along and says, hey, we see your numbers, you're doing great, you're incredible, blah, 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 blah. Let me give you an advance to do X amount of dates, right? We'll talk more about this advance in a moment. And we'll talk about why at the end of that tour, pig number 2 might end that tour broke, confused, and on vocal rest because they've been touring so much and they got to get ready to just get back on the road to go make the big bad wolf's money. And then pig number 3, we'll call them the superstar, right? Now this artist, their career is built out of bricks. They got the catalog, they got the fan base, they have leverage, And so when the big bad wolf approaches them, what we're starting to see happen is they know something is off, something is wrong. They're starting to call it out publicly. Shouts out to my current musical crush, Olivia Dean. And when I say music, I mean the actual music, not the person. I think what she just did was really, really, really important. And I think the big bad wolf, they don't enjoy public accountability and being called out. So before we get into pig number 2, because that's a really, really important one. And pig number 2 is the independent artist that goes on tour, that starts to get bigger and comes to the realization that all the venues to really grow your career are all owned by the same place. And that same place also owns the ticketing system. So let's talk about the money, because that's where this whole fairy tale turns into a true crime documentary. So say a ticket's $100, right? The value means nothing on the actual ticket, right? Because by the time you hit checkout, Ticketmaster they be having all kind of fees. It's like a service fee, a processing fee, a convenience fee. I feel like one time I ordered a ticket and it said, just because I can fee. Matter of fact, you just end up paying $148 on a $100 ticket. And half of these fees have names that just don't even make any sense. Matter of fact, in the comment section, leave a fee name that you feel like you saw on a ticket buying BTS tickets. And the crazy part about it is the artists, they're probably making about $8 off of that $100 ticket. So the craziest part about all of that is, the resellers, the scalpers, the dudes with bots. They're sitting at home and they might make more money off that same ticket than anybody that you see on stage that night. Let me say that again. Some dude with a bot script is making more money off of a stadium show than the bass player on the tour, or these dope backup dancers that you see, or these backup singers that you see on stage that have to go city to city and do all this rehearsal. There's somebody just flipping tickets using bots that's making more money than them. And that's a huge problem. And, the excitement that gets ramped up from these kind of things, the way that they sell it is, when you see a ticket, especially for us, these shows are selling out before they're not even making it out of pre-sale. And for us, we were like, oh my gosh, this is how in demand BTS is. And of course they are in demand. But what's also happening is they are allowing, and by they, I mean Ticketmaster is allowing bots to buy the tickets, then resell the tickets. And then Ticketmaster is making fees every time that ticket gets flipped. So the truth is, if Ticketmaster really hated bots, they stopped making millions and millions of dollars off of bots. But why would you shut down your most profitable department? Think about it. A few years back, the big bad wolf got caught slipping. There's undercover journalists. They walked into I think it was like a ticket brokers convention. And at the convention, Ticketmaster got a whole booth. And they're selling, essential oils at a farmer's market or something. They're set up with a booth. And what they were doing is they were literally recruiting scalpers. Just imagine a representative for Ticketmaster having a booth saying, oh, you having trouble pretending to be 200 people? Don't worry, we got software for that to make it easier. And the software is called Trade Desk. And I don't know, it's just so criminal. It's imagine the police handing out ski masks at a seminar teaching people how to rob places, or the bank, not being upset about being robbed because the people who are robbing the bank is leaving a really, really nice fat tip for the owners. For the bank managers. There was even a quote where I guess a reporter asked a Ticketmaster rep about scalpers breaking the rules, and I guess he said, "We don't police that." And that was the quote. And so that makes me want to go back to pig number 2, artist number 2. Artist number 2 is important in this story because this is one of the best ways I can break down how deep this really runs. So you take an artist that's really starting to blow up and they think that they're going to be the next big thing, right? You start finding out Live Nation owns all these venues, and you want to go from, say you've been doing 400 cap venues, 800 cap, capacity, cap means capacity. You're doing these smaller venues, and now it's time okay, I'm ready to move on to some of these bigger venues. You come to find out that Live Nation owns most of these bigger venues that can really put you in position to really put you at a star and then superstar status, right? But the way that these contracts work when it comes to touring is you, as an artist, you'll get an advance for your tour. And oftentimes, artists are not seeing money quick enough. When artists sign these record deals and things like that, if you go back and listen to my episode, Bad Math, it will really break down how these things work. But yeah, you're making money that has to go back towards those things. So you get this big check, but it's really a budget for your album, and you have to make some money to live off of that, and so forth, so forth. It's just, if you don't understand, just go back and listen to episode 6, I believe, Bad Math, and it will really break that down. So say an artist, we'll just call it $1 million, right? Artists will get $1 million, like you're going on tour for X amount of months. Here goes $1 million. We're going to advance you on your tour, and we're going to set up all these different things like that. So the artist is like, oh, shoot, I got $1 million in my pocket, so I'm getting paid for, when I get ready to hit the road, I'm doing what I love, and now I got money where I can take care of certain priorities, bills, buy a car, buy some things for my family, whatever the case may be. What pig number 2 didn't realize is that he thinks he's going to go on tour, and it's like, hey, my ticket sales are going to recoup that money, but what he doesn't know is that his recoupment is strictly based off of hard ticket sales. And by hard ticket sales, that means whoever is buying the ticket at the, at the face value of the ticket, right? So when you go to these concerts, think about all the things that you buy. Well, we won't even put merch into the equation, but think about everything else, from whether you get like VIP add-ons or, any venue fees, like you buy alcohol or concessions or the parking, all of those things that you are purchasing, none of that money goes back towards the artist recoupment. The catering, all the stuff for the venue that you have to get, like it's even in your contract that is coming out of your, your budget for your tour or whatever. So, like you have like food and all these different things that Live Nation is putting in there for like your guests and your green room and all that stuff. They'll have drinks and this and that, all these different things in your green room. If you ever go backstage at a concert, if you ever been, you'll see like there'll be a setup, there's food available, spreads, all these different things. Guess who's paying for that? The artist is paying for that. So artists effectively become like, walking billboards for venues. It kind of turns venues into like incredible food courts with live entertainment, because that little advance that they gave you for your tour, they're going to make that back the first time you go have a show, because they're going to make that back off of parking and food and alcohol alone, So imagine going on tour and you make, I don't know, $500,000, but you realize when you do the math, Live Nation made $5 million off of you going on tour, and you've been selling out venues, you've been doing 2-hour shows every night, and you come home and you receive a bill. That's not really a partnership. That's like a payday loan with pyrotechnics, and it's just really crazy. So something really incredible just happened recently. Olivia Dean happened, which is a very big deal. Her fans were getting hit with resale tickets 10 to 15 times higher than face value. She's currently like, the it girl, British, really dope singer. And she's got a crazy buzz. I think she just did SNL, and her album's selling really well. Her singles are doing really well, and they're prepping for her tour. So they had some pre-sale opportunities for her tour, which is still, I think, 4 or 5 months away or something like that. And when they went on sale, everything sold out quickly, and then they started popping up, like I said, 10 times, 10x the cost. So she spoke up loudly on social media and interviews. She didn't play it safe. She didn't sugarcoat it. And the big bad wolf himself had to fold. They capped resale prices. They even refunded fans the difference in the tickets that they paid. And then they came out with this statement saying, we care about fair pricing. And it was like, oh, now you care. Now that someone has shined a light on your sharp teeth, now you care. It was funny because one of you guys even tagged me on Twitter, and one of Live Nation's responses, or Ticketmaster's responses, same person. One of Ticketmaster's responses on social media, they said, we can only do what we can do. We can't police like what the other ticket reselling platforms are doing, and said something like they should do better, and put do better in parentheses. And it just felt so salty. Like they just felt salty that they got caught and they got called up. And like I said, Big Bad Wolf hates public accountability. But one thing that Olivia Dean proved is that artists actually have power when they use it. But the tricky part is, I am like, when do you have to use that power as an artist? This is where I'm going to get some more answers after this episode comes out. And hopefully I'll have some by the time we have the call-ins to talk about this. But I want to know, how much leverage does an artist have if they've already sold a tour, if they're already in debt? Did she have this leverage because she sold, her career is starting to skyrocket? And it makes me wonder, what can Big Hit and BTS do about this? I know that they've capped, the actual ticket prices before, but that's just the face value of it. This is the first time that I know in recent memory where artists made Ticketmaster fold like this and actually refund fans who were getting scalped by the system that they created, Because at the end of the day, man, this has to stop. Like, a scalper can't buy a ticket for $100 and sell it for $500, and then Ticketmaster sells that same ticket again for $1,200, because they're making money every single time. If there's a service fee and a processing fee, and they go up based on how much a ticket is sold for, then they're profiting from the original sale, the first resale, the second resale, and that incentivizes Ticketmaster to ignore bot activity. So that just lets us all know that they know exactly what's happening. They're not stopping it because it's just too damn lucrative. Like, why would they stop it if they're making so much money off of it? So currently, the Department of Justice has kind of stepped in and said that they've seen enough. They said that I think this is one of the biggest antitrust cases since Microsoft in the 90s. They said Live Nation controls the venues. Excuse me. They said Live Nation controls the venues, controls the ticketing, controls the tour promotion, controls the resale, and then they punish venues who try to use anybody else. That's what's gonna hopefully get them in trouble, because that's not a company. That's like, they're just operating on some real mafia or Thanos type vibes, the way that they moving out here. So not too long ago, ticket scalping was strictly, just on the streets. You go outside a venue, trying to go to a Laker game, there's somebody outside like, hey bro, I got some tickets, this much. And there's been stories in the past, someone buys a ticket, you go to scan it, the ticket doesn't work, you find out it's fake, whatever the case may be. But even then, when scalpers would resell tickets, there were still natural limits. Scalpers had to physically get the tickets somehow, whether it was using a contact they had at a ticketing agency or camping in line and then reselling it in person. The scale was super small because that's a lot of work. But in the internet age, obviously everything's changed. With online ticketing, sales move really, really, really fast. And then, that's how bots came into play. If you're wondering like what a bot is, like, a software program that can basically simulate thousands of fans flooding a ticket sales site at once and grabbing up all the seats faster than anybody could ever click and type. In the early 2000s, there was a ticketing group named the Wise Guys, and they had bots that I think they got like more than 1 million tickets to, big concerts and events. This was people like Miley Cyrus, Bruce Springsteen, major sporting events, all these different things before fans could actually purchase them. And the Wise Guys, they resold the tickets and made, I think it was like over $25 million or something like that over a few years. Eventually, the Justice Department indicted them for fraud and some other stuff, like fraud, unauthorized computer access. And at the time, there was no law because this is the Wild Wild West. Like, we're just moving into, the Web 2 era. And so reselling tickets it's not actually illegal. So they were charged under like some wire fraud, some things like that. But it wasn't like what they could have been charged for. And they made a ton of money. And the Wise Guys case was a wake up call for everybody. It just kind of revealed how vulnerable the whole ticketing system were to bot attacks. Ticketmaster, and others, they claim that they've tried tons of countermeasures, which is like the CAPTCHAs and I am not, those little boxes you can see, I am not a robot. They try blocking IP addresses. try purchase limits and all these different things. But bot developers hire programmers to just get past all of those different things. So by the 2010s, ticket bots had grown into just a full-blown industry, right? So by like the 2010s, it was just completely out of control at that point. And I remember, wanting to go to concerts, trying to go see a Jay-Z concert, and Kanye, and things like that, and just how difficult it had become to try to get tickets. So believe me, guys, I've been in your shoes before. But still, I remember what that was like. It was terrible. And eventually, they responded with, sometimes we just make the jokes ourselves, but they responded with the legislators created an act called Better Online Ticket Sales Act in 2016, which is called the Bots Act, which made it illegal in the U.S. To use software to circumvent ticket price purchase limits and online security measures and all these things like that. So in theory, it gave authorities and ticket companies a tool to crack down on bot users, right? So people who violate it can face fines when they offend. Sounds good on paper, but in practice, the law's been tough to enforce because most of the people, if you are crafty or smart enough to know how to operate these bots, and obviously you're going to be behind layers of servers and shell companies and all these things to make it hard to get caught. Ticketmaster claims it invests millions and millions in anti-bot technology, and it has shown that they do, stop a huge number of bot attempts because they brag about it. But the proof is really in the pudding because bots are clearly still getting through, and Ticketmaster is still clearly profiting off of tickets being resold on their platform. So earlier I mentioned the Eras Tour incident. I think that was 2023, 2022. And when those tickets went on sale, they had like billions of bot requests, fan attempts. Everything was hitting the site all at once. Pre-sale codes. People were in online queues for hours. We know all about that. While behind the scenes, bots were just getting through. So Ticketmaster ended up canceling the public sale because the allotment of tickets was just exhausted and chaotic in pre-sale. Swift slammed the company, calling the experience excruciating and lamenting that her fans went through such turmoil, as you guys probably saw that when that happened. But once again, Taylor Swift being a huge artist with extreme leverage, this became a turning point, and it sparked some hearings and a new wave of scrutiny on like how Ticketmaster has dominated the industry. I'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. I've said enough about it already. But it just kind of showed that, someone with massive star power and fan verification measures weren't enough to stop the bots and resellers from screwing up the market. So to give you a clearer picture, let's follow a ticket from the moment it's announced to the moment a fan scans it at the gate, right? So imagine BTS announces a tour. A random fan, we'll call this fan Alice, is waiting to buy a ticket. And then so is Steve, who's a broker running a scalper bot operation, right? So you have announcement, you have pre-sale. When the tour dates drop, Alice might sign up, even be a verified fan or be part of a fan club, all these different things. Steve, on the other hand, acquires or creates dozens of fake accounts to also register for pre-sale codes using scripts. Bot scripts fill out the forms faster than any human can fill that out. Alice gets a code, Bob might get 50 codes. If codes are limited or scarce or whatever, Bob might, why am I calling Bob now? I was just calling him Steve, right? All right. Now we won't call him Steve because Steven is the homie. We don't call him Bob. If the codes are scarce, then Bob might even buy some from a real fan who got them but aren't planning to use them, which is also crazy. Tickets going to sell at 10 a.m., right? Tickets are now live. Alice is sitting at the laptop, ready to refresh. And if you're listening to this, you have probably been here before. But Bob's bots are already hitting the site. So the bots are basically automated web browsers that are programmed to navigate Ticketmaster's site the second it opens. They solve the CAPTCHAs, use third-party stuff to get through, or they even use AI or farms of like low paid clickers. They can enter card info and seat preference all in milliseconds, right? Meanwhile, you got Alice over here starting to spin around because, waiting on a queue number. Bob's bots are just going and going and going and going and going and going, dozens per second, right? Using different IP addresses, account logins. Like, this is all happening rapidly while you're sitting there trying to type in your info. All of this is happening. So aftermath, Alice might get lucky, super excited, like, oh my gosh, I got something. Screen says sold out at 10:01 a.m. Bob, if all goes well, he's gotten 100 tickets spread across key cities, great seats, whatever the case may be. Some of these brokers even coordinate together, and they use networks that will have different members target different shows or sections to just kind of maximize the coverage and the amount of tickets that they end up getting. Now, Bob has a whole bunch of premium tickets, and then immediately he turns around and lists them on secondary platforms. It could be Ticketmaster's own resale marketplace, which is huge, or even competitors like StubHub and SeatGeek and, all the ones you've seen. So Bob might have the ticket for like, $100, $150 face value ticket. He might have it on sale for $600 each on StubHub. And StubHub doesn't even require sellers to have tickets in hand, which is even more crazy. I don't know if that's true now, but I know at one point you have to have them in hand yet. He just has to promise to deliver them by the event date. And I think it's called speculative listing. And if the price rises, Bob can adjust the prices. And if they fall, or he failed to actually get certain tickets, he can try to get them later, or he can just cancel the sale, this is so problematic. And then you just have multiple resales, right? So say like I buy Bob's tickets on StubHub for $600 each. StubHub takes around 15% from the cut from the buyer and 10% from the seller. These things vary. But just on $1,200 tickets, StubHub might take roughly $300 in fees, leaving Bob $900. Bob already paid Ticketmaster $300 for the 2 tickets. That was $150 a piece, right? So Bob's profit is $600 on that sale. Now imagine a few weeks later, that buyer can't attend and decides to resell the tickets again. Maybe the hype has gone even crazier. Now the tickets are even higher. They list the tickets, which are just digital, PDFs with barcodes, put them back on StubHub or on another website. Each time those tickets are resold, the platform charges new fees. And it's not uncommon for like one ticket to be sold 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. And the prices keep climbing. Even if they don't, these platforms are still making money every single time the ticket sells. So like, what does this all mean when it comes to next year, when it comes to comeback time and tour time? So, you guys already know how chaotic BTS ticketing under normal conditions, under normal circumstances. And then you have to deal with, this whole situation with bots and all these different things like that. The legal pressure on Ticketmaster is the highest that it's ever been. They can't afford another Eras Tour meltdown, not with DLJ watching. And the fact that artists are starting to push back on resale limits, like if Olivia Dean, Taylor, and now if like BTS or Hype decides to cap resale or use fan-to-fan exchanges, Ticketmaster can't say no. ARMY is one of the most organized fan bases on earth. If any fandom can force change in ticketing culture, it's ARMY. I think that Ticketmaster is already under a lot of public and legal scrutiny, and they can't risk having bots ruin BTS ticketing again. So they'll have to implement some real anti-bot measures, or they're going to get cooked alive by the press, because ARMY is going to be super loud about it. And with what happened with Taylor and what's happened with Olivia Dean, if BTS calls them out and ARMY calls them out, I think this is the first time we've seen like some chinks in the armor. I think we see like the big bad wolf might actually be bleeding. So this is the time where fan power, artist leverage, government pressure, and the big bad wolf sphere is all kind of like hitting at the same time. So the big bad wolf ain't big because he's strong. He's big because everybody thought he was. And now just the way that everything has worked with technology and things like that, you're starting to see artists really, really, really understand how much power they have to flex, and they're really able to listen to the fans and get certain things done. So this is why there's no enforcement. You know, Ticketmaster and other platforms have rules and all this stuff like that, but really, at the end of the day, like, they are incentivized to look the other way, because every time a ticket is sold, they're making more and more and more money every single time. What's the service fee? What's the processing fee? What are all these different fees? If everything is digital, do they really need to be getting paid every time a ticket is resold? Is Ticketmaster's earnings actually increase when a ticket's price increases? If there's a 10% service fee, a $50 ticket is going to make them $5, but a $500 ticket is going to make them $50, so forth. So I think I saw something that said Ticketmaster, or what they're being charged with, is that they've made $3.7 billion in fees from resale tickets between 2019 and 2024 by allowing and facilitating broker activity. I said billion, not million. Ticketmaster has made $3.7 billion in fees from resale tickets between 2019 and 2024, allegedly. I guess you got to say allegedly, because the FTC is who's alleging that. I'll say it one last time. Ticketmaster made $3.7 billion in fees from resale tickets over the course of 5 years. No artist made that much money touring. And now, you know, the DOJ came knocking at the door, and now we see the wolf sweating through his suit. So let's remember this. The wolf don't make music. The wolf don't write songs. The wolf don't dance, rap, sing, rehearse, do backflips. And they don't even love music. You know, artists do, and fans do, and we do. And if artists ever decide collectively, we're not putting up with it no more, the wolf loses all of his power. You know, he's only scary till you stop running. So I'll be watching very closely what happens with this looming case. I think all the elements are there for there to actually finally be some change. Because if the DOJ succeeds, then Live Nation and Ticketmaster could be split, which would really be historic. But yeah, I guess we got to wait and see what happens. So in the meantime, next time you see tickets for a big tour just kind of disappear in seconds and then they reappear on resale sites at 10 times the price, you'll know exactly what's going on, and you'll understand why the person making the most from that show might not even be the guitarist on stage, but a clever person behind a keyboard, you know, aided and abetted by a system that's finally getting the scrutiny it deserves. And, you know, if the FTC complaint sums it up, like, Ticketmaster is not a natural bystander, but an active participant. That's their quote, you know, and it's obviously true if they made $3.7 billion from the resale market in fees for selling the tickets. It's insane. So hopefully now, you know, the jig is up and the ticket heist that's been happening in plain sight will finally come to an end. It's been a sleepover. Hit me on Patreon. Go sign up for a membership. We have code SleepyClaws50 for just this week Christmas sale to get a membership. And if you are a member, you will see the QR code on Wednesday night. And call in. I want to hear from you. Talk to me about this topic. Let's get into the weeds of it. It's been a sleepover. Bless.
Lord, everything you need, come and see a real one. Time for you to feel alive. I'm just trying to make you feel something.